Hello and welcome to another episode of the Greater Meaning Podcast. As always, I am your host, Andrew, alongside with Nathan.
And in Nathan's alongside of Joshua.
Hello, I'm Josh.
And today we finally reached the end and conclusion of the awesome story of Abraham. Very excited to get through this portion of the story. I mean, after the testing of Abraham's faith and when God asked Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, I feel like this portion of Abraham's life isn't as discussed and isn't as commonly known as some of the others. So it's really, really awesome to get to this point. I feel like we've come along an amazing journey. These are stories that we know, but you know, as we go through it, study it, really break it down, man, it's so many things come to light that you didn't think about before. And we got
Sarah dies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everybody kind of knew that one, but we're covering awesome things like, awesome things. We are going to
Abraham dies.
Cover things like the death and burial of Sarah. The fact
this is basically the end of Abraham.
This is the end of the story in Genesis, covering Abraham's life, where we cover the death and burial of Sarah, Abraham finding Isaac, his son, a wife. Him remarrying and having other children, which people don't talk about often.
People forget that he remarries.
Yeah, straight up. And his death and burial. So yeah, really, really excited to get started today. I feel like, I don't know, man. I feel like I've walked alongside with Abraham.
Are you?
That's exactly. I mean, what? We have like 6 hours worth of content with Abraham. I mean, it
was more than I thought.
What's the correct word? Beguiled, right? It's beguiled me.
Is that?
But it's not, is it?
It's such a stepping stone to know that we have 6 hours worth of recording, edited recording of just our journey with Abraham. I haven't heard a sermon that long on Abraham. It's just I can read the story of Abraham in about probably 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes.
Well, what's crazy is upon the conclusion of the ultimate test of Abraham's faith, we come to the final chapter of his life.
Please stop.
This by no means is a short chapter.
Listen, sometimes we shoot when we miss, okay?
As Abraham accomplishes more in his later life than in his first 75 years of life.
For all the listeners out there, basically what's going on here is Andrew, every week, he spends so much time writing all these detailed notes for all of us, but we don't open it. We don't even look at it. Well, first things first, I have my own notes, so I don't even go off of his notes.
Thank you.
But Andrew, let's just give a round of applause right now. If you wherever you are, if you're driving, take your hands off the steering wheel and give him a round of applause. Everybody.
No, but I think it's
disclaimer.
Awesome,
don't do that.
Because really, this goes to show that God's perfect timing and plan are all we need to rely upon if we want to be successful in walking along His will. This episode, we will cover the death and burial of his wife of 67 years, the passing of his proverbial torch by finding his son Isaac a wife, his remarrying and other subsequent children of note, and his death and burial.
Yes, I did write an introduction to
That's a really nice. I like that you use subsequent.
He was married to her for 67 years?
Ever. I would have never thought to say subsequent.
He was married for 67 years to her?
I believe so, yeah.
I mean, he wrote it down. Andrew.
I need to see some actual content.
At one point, I looked it up and I read that, and I didn't actually.
From what I understood, is back in the day, they got married at like 13, 15 type of thing, not 40 or whatever.
Either way, this episode we're going to begin in Genesis chapter 23 with the death of his wife, Sarah. Nathan, if you could start us off by reading verses 1 through 4, please.
Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. So Sarah died in Kirjath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan, and Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham stood up from before his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a foreigner and a visitor among you. Give me property for a burial place among you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight.
So, really interesting topic that the first came to mind when I read this passage is the fact that Abraham came and he mourned. He wasn't with Sarah when she probably passed away, but the fact that he was someone of faith. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever like in the Christian community, we're supposed to like think of like death and the passing of somebody. While it hurts and it's sad, you know, you think we know that what we talked about a little bit, that Abraham, he was somebody who knew that there was somebody beyond this life and beyond what we see. And we know that there was a life afterwards. I want to kind of bring this idea that Abraham had sights towards a future kingdom, but even men of faith, and even doesn't matter who you are or what type of adventurous life you've had, you know, there's a time for everything. In Ecclesiastes, I believe it's chapter 2, or is it chapter 3? Sorry. It's one of my favorite passages. It just says, for everything there is a time, you know, a time for peace, a time for war, a time for mourning, a time for laughing. And Abraham really embodies. I don't know why that stuck out to me. It's like he went and he mourned for his wife. I mean, obviously he loved his wife, but
no, it's definitely a touching.
I don't know why it stuck out to me, because it's not because he had like, you know.
Why do you think the rest of them don't care about their wives?
Well, I spent so much time thinking about how much Abraham cared about his son, and how much time we spent thinking about how many times like his wife was taken by somebody else. And I don't know if he necessarily fought it, but he made her lie about being his wife. So seeing this relationship, I don't know why it just kind of stuck out to me a little bit. It was weird.
Well, let's get down to nitty and gritty. Where was he? Where was this Abraham fella? And why wasn't he with his wife at this moment?
I mean, he had a large...
I'm thinking that it was still... Somewhere. Well, no, she was in a different city.
What? Where she was?
Sarah died in Kirjah Arba, in the land of Canaan, and then Abraham came to mourn and weep for her. So like for it to say that he came to her, it's not like, oh, he was in the field and he was like, oh, I gotta run. She died. She was probably already wrapped in whatever garment that they had for the whole burial process, because they wrapped back then completely.
Yeah, there was a burial.
And yeah, I mean, it wasn't a burial necessarily in the ground.
She passed. What you're saying is that he wasn't next to her bedside as she passed. He found out about her death.
Exactly. He was definitely gone. In my conclusion, basically, he's still with Isaac in this whole thing, maybe.
No, and it's really interesting because she's also one of the only women in the entire Bible whose age was revealed at her death. You know, how
he must have just been. She must have just been out.
She was a very important matriarchal figure in the Bible, not only as Abraham being the patriarchal figure. She is one of the only people in the Bible that is constantly referred to as an example for other women of faith. I mean, she's talked about in 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 5-6. For in this manner in former times, the holy women who trusted in God also adorned themselves, being submissive to their own husbands, as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters you are if you do good and are not afraid with any error. And then obviously...
Okay, but that doesn't go... I get it. I'm just saying, basically, like, where was he? Trying to get down to that. Where was he and how long was he gone? Because it seemed like he could have been gone for a good little while.
I mean, Abraham was an important man.
Yeah, he had a lot of stuff to do. I mean, he wouldn't always be...
He was a businessman. So he was probably out doing business, selling his donkeys, his female donkeys.
His flock, you know?
He had many lands
and also
properties.
At that time, the women had their own tent. It was like a separate place. And it was like a whole different section as well. We've brought up the Hebrews chapter 11 a lot through the beginning of Genesis because it's referred to a lot by examples of faith. But 11:11 in Hebrews tells us about the faith of Sarah, saying, by faith Sarah herself also received strength to conceive seed, and she bore a child when she was past the age because she judged him faithful who had promised. So we know that God is the one that blessed her and did this, but even though she laughed and even though she had these moments where she's like, am I really going to do this? At the end of the day, God blessed her because she did have that faith and trust in the one that promised. Because, you know, and I think that's something to be admired. It's something to look up to as a woman in the Bible. Someone that, I think this is the first time we're looking at a woman that we could learn something from, other than, you know, don't eat the apple, Eve.
Don't eat the apple, Eve.
Is
Don't
there
do
another
it.
woman mentioned before Sarah in the Bible?
There's other women mentioned.
Like,
of course.
besides Eve?
There's Eve.
Noah's wife. Doesn't give her a name, but just Noah's wife.
Yeah, it's a bunch of wives, but no names of those
Nobody
wives.
of as important significance as Sarah up until this
So
point.
Sarah actually had a name, and she had a different name. She started as Sarai.
Yeah, remember that God also changed her name.
So
But-
she was important enough that God's like, I'm going to change your name.
Yeah, so Abraham mourns. He goes, and then he literally gets up and goes before the sons of Heth to purchase a burial cave. He wants to find a place of rest, and wants to find not only a place to bury his wife, but he knows that obviously where he's looking to bury and what he's looking to attain will probably be the place where he is laid down as well in the future.
Oh yeah, and the place where it's interesting on this whole conversation because it's almost like destined to be buried there. And I'm going to get into it later on why I think that it's so important, why I need to buy this land to own it so that we can get buried here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of super significance in this, but he gets up and he goes before the sons of Heth, they're called. Now, the sons of Heth were kind of known as the Hittites.
The Hethites.
Hittites?
That were later turned into
Yes.
Yeah, Hittites, but they were first known as the Hethites, which later turned into the Hittites.
Well, the Hittites or the sons of Heth Heth was a son of Canaan, going back to Noah again. It was,
so we got Noah, Ham, Canaan, and then Heth.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And then the Hittite empire essentially was centered around what is now Turkey, in that same area. Remember that they would have came down off Mount Ararat and had colonies in various places, but pretty much it was the great grandson of Noah, like Noah, Ham, Canaan, Heth, exactly. And Uriah, another interesting person in the Bible that is also Hittite would be Uriah the Hittite. If you guys know who that is, was Bathsheba's husband, whom David sent off on the front lines to not spoil
these
a very
people,
important story, but to die so that he could have his wife.
These people were known as like very good warriors. Heth means, as a name, Heth means terror. And even Rebecca later on, when she's looking for a wife for Jacob or whatever, we're going to get into that later, obviously, but she's like terrified. There's like, my life would be worthless if he ends up with a Hittite, because these people they were kind of very sly, very sneaky, but at the same time, extremely aggressive and extremely good at warfare. And we learn later on throughout the Bible how the Hittites were constantly doing battle, constantly at war with other nations.
Another interesting thing that we notice here in these first 4 verses is Abraham, he refers to himself as a foreigner and a visitor. And he asks give me property for burial of a place among you. Now, we know that he believes fully at this point that this is the land that he inhabits, is promised and inherited to him, or it's his inheritance by God. So
Yes.
for him to refer the land as being a visitor in it and being a foreigner, he knows that he needs to entreat them. And he begins this very interesting section of the Bible where, he mourns. It's kind of almost legalistic. Like they go into very specific transaction and very revealing of the culture of the time, I would say. It was extremely fascinating to read and to learn really a lot about it. But Nathan, if you could actually read verses 5 through 9 here as we continue, I want to kind of talk about this a little bit.
And the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my lord, you are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us will withhold from you his burial place, that you may bury your dead. They talk so weird back then. Then Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. And he spoke with them, saying, If it is your wish that I bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and meet with Ephron, the son of Zohar, for me, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me at the full price as property for a burial place among you.
Yeah, so it's interesting how they begin almost this like negotiation ritual for a field so that he can bury his wife, and he starts off by asking,
Would you call it a ritual? Explain that in a little bit, like why it's why you're saying ritual.
I would say the ritual because it was like, okay, so first of all, he came to this would have taken place. It said he presented himself before the sons of Heth, right? So Abraham would have come before at the gate of the city where the Hittites would have been staying. Which is
so this doesn't only apply to Abraham, right? This would apply to anyone looking to bury their dead.
And so Abraham would have presented himself at the gate. Remember how we spoke about in the Sodom and Gomorrah episode, Lot was sitting in the gate, meaning that he would have been around people that had the power to be like witnesses that would give legal precedence to the transaction and negotiations that took place. It wasn't just a conversation in a field. It would have been kind of like an official conducting. And, they start off with this back and forth where Abraham, he bows his head down to the ground and he entreats him. He's very humble and he breaks himself down a little bit. And then, he's like, give me something and give me the price for it. And they respond almost to be like, just here you go, take anywhere. You are a prince among our people. Just go and take your pick of the choices. Who's going to stop you? But
yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be like they were just gifting it. It wasn't something where they were just like, oh yeah, really take it. Really, it was supposed to begin this back and forth. There was supposed to be an insistence from the other party, be like, no, give me the price, which Abraham does. And I believe that through this part of the story, it's interesting because Abraham kind of exemplifies what it means to be a man of faith and also be able to conduct yourself even in business around other people as an example of God, as a prophet, as somebody that was chosen. He was not above doing what he needed to do in order to be respectful and walk away with a transaction that was done correctly. I don't know, maybe this stuck out to me again a little bit more because I'm also a salesman by trade. So this was extremely interesting, and I maybe read way too much about this.
I think you read really into this.
It really is interesting when you read about it.
There's nothing wrong with that because
take whatever land you want. Nah, let me buy some. Nah, you don't have to buy it. Come on, I'll buy it. Okay, you could buy it, but I mean, you don't have to buy. It's like picking up the check and be like, nah, let me pay. Nah, let me pay. Nah, let me.
Listen, when I was reading it,
you pay.
That's the way I was seeing it. I was seeing it as these people are offering it to Abraham, and Abraham's just like saying no. It looked like he wanted to own the land. I didn't see it as a ritual. I didn't know that it was a ritual until you and I talked about it. But the fact that
in the culture,
the importance of trying to buy the land was very
in Bronze Age culture. This negotiation style would have been, and it's like a lot of the context cues from a lot of the studies that I've done on it. It's kind of understood.
But what if he would have said, yeah? What if he said, okay, thank you, I'll bury my wife for free?
He would have been looked at. He would have. Well, here's the problem with that. First of all, it would have been looked at as kind of like not right. It wouldn't have had any legal precedence behind it. Second of all, it wouldn't have had any legal claim as he would, because as we continue, when he negotiates with this man named Ephron, who actually owned it, he was one of the sons of Heth. He was Ephron the Hittite, who Abraham specifically was speaking with. Once he has this back and forth, Ephron tries to insist on giving it as a gift, which it's kind of like playing the high ground. Like, if you're someone that gives somebody something as a gift, then all of a sudden you're like kind of putting yourself in a position where I'm above you. I can give. What is this? And he literally says, they go back and forth. You see this because he reveals the prices like, this is 400 pieces of silver. But what is this amongst friends? Take it as a gift. And why would he bring out the price unless it was part of this process? But if you
know what else is interesting?
Listen, let me finish. If he would have accepted it, Abraham would have had to accept something and be submissive. Now, remember back in the chapter 14 when he meets with the king of Sodom and he gives everything back to King of Sodom. He says, I will not allow anybody to say I have made Abraham rich. By going along this process and maneuvering himself very very specifically.
He doesn't want to owe anything to anyone.
Everything he has is given to him by God, and he accepted the first offer. He says 400 pieces of silver. Abraham says, done.
He doesn't take handouts.
He doesn't take handouts.
Listen.
He doesn't negotiate. He also paid the first offer from Ephron was supposed to be an extremely high inflated price in which the negotiations at that point would have begun.
But it was the first offer.
It was the first offer. And Abraham says, I'll pay it. Not only because he was able to, because God has blessed him so much at that point, but because he wanted it to be no question in front of everybody. Is like, not only did he buy it, he bought it at a ridiculous price. Yeah, that part is in Abraham's, it's his. And it's the first part of the Bible where we see that there's a part of the promised land that Abraham inhabits that he has a physical deed and physical ownership to. Even
I wish people still did nowadays where they just walk up to somebody's property and be like, I want that. I would like that. How much? People still do that, but it's not as common, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's pretty cool because he goes chink, chink, chink and just tosses in a bag with money.
It says that he weighed out the silver.
Coins.
It says that he weighed out the silver according to the time, like the weight of
what
the
did they
merchants.
weigh it on?
They had those little scales,
They had scales.
balances.
They had
You know,
scales.
They had scales?
Yeah, they had the like one side is heavier than the other. They put balances and they would have a counterweight that would be able to measure, you know, if
And they had
measuring
counterweights laying around like this is 400.
They probably
silver
had their
counterweights.
weights where they knew how much things cost roughly. But what I wanted to say was something that really stuck out to me is the location on where they're in. The location that they're in right now is Mamre.
Oh my gosh.
What does that have to
Abraham wants to bury his wife in Mamre. And where's Mamre located? Next
amongst the trees?
Near Canaan.
It is in Canaan.
Well, Ephron lives near Canaan. He lives in Mamre near Canaan.
They live in Canaan. They live in the where the Hittites were, the sons of Heth. It would have been land inside Canaan. This whole area is known as the land of Canaan. It says that Abraham weighed out the silver according to the currency of the merchants of that time. Sorry. So he didn't even purchase just the cave. He purchased the field as well of Machpelah, and it was deeded to him. So he has physical ownership of a piece of land after all this time. It's been, man, I don't know how long has it been up until this point?
We've been talking for like 15
No,
years.
I'm talking about Abraham's life.
Oh.
It's been years and years and years. But it's interesting. I don't know why it brought up to me. Like he does this act of purchasing this land, and it's so detailedly. It's the transaction is detailed in such an extent where I believe that we can draw away that.
You're right. It is in Canaan. My bad.
No, you're good.
You know what I take away from this is that Abraham purchased himself some land.
But also he knew that I want to bring out this idea that at this point in Abraham's life, after walking with God this much, he had eyes and he had an understanding that he was looking forward to a new kingdom, a kingdom that wasn't on this earth. Yes, this earth was promised to him, but he realizes that one day he's going to die. He realizes that his wife dies.
Remember the 400. Remember the 400 shekels for later on when we get into it, because 400 is another significant number here.
What's the significance?
As we get into it, because we're about to talk about the cave of Machpelah.
So you're waiting for us to talk about a cave?
No, you're good. But anyway, the dual citizenship that I believe that Abraham walked with, that he felt himself, even though he was in the land that God promised him, he saw himself as a foreigner and a stranger. In the Hebrews chapter 11, again, verse 16, it says, but as it is, they aspire to a better land that is a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. And when talking about these patriarchs and these men of faith, it's just there was this expectation of a new city, a land of promise that was beyond this physical plane. So purchasing the burial plot,
so you're saying that Abraham believed in a heaven?
He believed in a heaven. I think that he walking so closely with God would have revealed a lot, as a prophet that he was, would have revealed himself, just like he revealed the future to John, the apostle in Revelation. He would have shown Abraham, kind of like a future.
Because I mean, this is the reason I bring this up, because up until this point, I don't really see Noah or anybody else thinking about an afterlife. They kind of live their life. Their life is super long. They don't mention what happens after this, or they don't say anything about it.
Exactly.
And you're saying that Abraham had his mind set. I mean, in what way? Where do you have like the evidence of that he saw?
Hebrews chapter 11, and it speaks.
But that's Hebrews. I'm talking about in the story of Genesis with Abraham.
Because he's referring to him based on the way he carries himself and the way that he refers to himself as a foreigner and a visitor in the land.
But maybe he was just saying that because it wasn't his.
He was a
right
foreigner
there.
and a visitor.
Yeah, but he believed fully. I mean, so then you have to look at it in two ways. If he refers to it like that, and he believes that, then he doesn't believe that that's the land that was given to him and promised to him. That means he doesn't believe in the promise of God. But he refers to himself as that to others, especially in the witness of the sons of Heth, because I believe that was the way he truly saw.
But did he believe it's his land or is it going to be his descendants' land?
His land that was promised to him and his descendants. Bring it to the land.
What about Adam and Eve? If we go very back,
they also had the promise of a chosen one, the son of.
Okay, but we're talking about heaven. The idea of an afterlife. Did they know about it?
Yeah, of course.
I agree. I would assume because they walked with the Lord.
Yeah, you think about it. They had an experience of humanity that nobody else has had since then. They had a beginning that was they would speak face to face with God, and they know that God doesn't have an end. God doesn't have a death, and they didn't have death until they took from the fruit and then ate it. So they know that eventually,
in other words,
the spirits that are inside them were from God, and they would have.
Adam and Eve knew that there would be an afterlife when they did die, so they obviously passed it on to their descendants. It's not like they kept the secret for themselves to the grave. It's
definitely super interesting. I didn't expect to go down that path as much.
Well, because you're alluding that he did this because he firmly believes in after. But I never, in all the years I've read of Abraham, I never
even Enoch walked with the Lord. Right?
Yeah, that's in the Old Testament. I don't see a lot of them gauging or taking what they do. Afterlife isn't mentioned a lot in the Old Testament.
Of course, yeah.
No, but let's
if I'm not mistaken, I don't know. Do Jewish people even believe in like a technical hell or a heaven?
They do. Let's just play and go into the Book of Enoch for a little bit.
Okay.
If the Book of Enoch is real, and that goes to a matter of opinion for many believers. Enoch walked with the Lord, and the Lord showed him the different realms. And he showed him a Sheol, basically as a place of torment for those that God decided to send there. And so obviously he showed Enoch an afterlife, people that were dead and their souls being somewhere else. And even for the Bible to say that Abel's blood cries out from the earth, kind of that could allude basically his soul is crying out.
We know this mostly from also texts in the New Testament. Like I said, in Hebrews chapter 11, probably a better verse to read would have been verse 10. For Abraham was waiting for the city which God has built. Let me pull it up specifically. Hold on. Hebrews chapter 11.
While you pull that up, I'm just going to say that I think the context of talking about an afterlife wasn't nearly as important in the Old Testament, because the whole basis of the Old Testament was to basically bring forth the Israelites and God's chosen people to the coming of Jesus.
Okay.
So it would be unnecessary to talk about an afterlife.
Well, no, I'm reading.
The reason it ties back exactly word for word. So if you read from chapter 11 in Hebrews verse 8, by faith Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to the place in which he would receive as an inheritance, and he went out not knowing where he was going. By faith he dwelt in a land of promise, as in a foreign country, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs of his same promise. For he waited for the city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is God.
Again, that's in the New Testament.
And that's going to tie into what I'm going to
also
talk
tie
about.
into saying he waited as a foreigner in that land.
I get that. But as of right now, Abraham.
There's no
himself,
verse that says, and Abraham looked towards heaven.
Okay, because that's a question that a lot of people are gonna. So I'm just saying that because in Judaism, there's like two schools of thought.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them don't believe that there's an afterlife. Actually, the afterlife is brought up a lot by Jesus. Jesus is kind of like, guys, the whole point is the afterlife. I don't know if you guys get this, but it's about what echoes in eternity. So I'm just bringing that up because that's something that a lot of people don't realize when they're reading. Like, if you were to just start reading the Bible and you've never read it before and you don't get to the New Testament, you're just reading it chronologically like we're going through it, it doesn't really mention an afterlife until you start getting into the New Testament.
So then where did Elijah go?
Well,
where did
just God took him, but that's not, he's still alive technically. He's not dead.
No, I mean,
Elijah didn't die and go to heaven.
I get that, but it just
there is.
It describes a heaven, but it doesn't describe your soul going there.
When during the time of Jesus, when you talk about the rich man and Lazarus, like this is things that they would have believed. They believed that there was a place.
That's what I'm saying.
Of like the bosom of Abraham.
There's schools of thought about what might happen. But it wasn't like conclusive.
I don't think that there wasn't. And again, we're not authorities on
no. But here's my little take on it, which kind of could bring things to when Jesus was talking about an afterlife. None of the Pharisees, none of them were accusing him on speaking of the afterlife. It was him when he was saying that he was God and doing all these miracles. That's where they were coming after him. But when he was talking about an afterlife, talking about the kingdom of heaven, they weren't really after him on that. Yeah. So it was almost like it must have already been a thing that they understood and knew that there was an afterlife. There was a kingdom that God had in heaven.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting school of thought, and it's something that we should highlight. Like Nathan said, I mean, it's something that's thought about by reading in the context of the text. But it doesn't say specifically, but we know that through different versions or different places and different verses throughout the Bible that we can confidently assume one way or another. We'll leave it up to you guys. What do you think? Email us at greatermeaningpodcast@gmail.com what you think this would have meant to you, this portion.
And again, the only reason I brought it up is I did look a lot into like Judaism, and there is a lot of debates about what afterlife is, what heaven is, what is it, like they literally have a lot of sects of their own faith that like different schools of thought. That's the only reason I brought it up.
No, it's
because
interesting.
The Old Testament is essentially
I don't have this is what it is, guys.
Well, no, our answer as Christians is a categoric yes. Yeah. Because Jesus described the afterlife. Mm-hmm. And because Jesus, pretty much his teaching is, hey, repent, and through me you have everlasting life. I mean, that's the whole point of Jesus is our everlasting life, right? Our redemption and our entrance into heaven through the sacrifice that Jesus made. That's what Christians believe. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying. That's the only reason I brought it up. Right?
No, it's good. It was a good point.
Because you're stating that Abraham did this because he believes in that, and that's a valid point too. I can't disagree with you because by all means, it does look like Abraham is talking like I'm a stranger in this land. I mean, that's a very popular lyric in a Christian song, isn't it? Like, I'm a stranger in this land. I know there's like some Christian hymn, like an old one, that literally literally says those exact words.
Yeah, it's a Romanian.
It's a Romanian one. Yeah,
but it's in English too. I just don't know the words in English.
Yeah, so I know that.
We're Romanian, by the way.
Yeah, we are Romanian.
I just dropped some. Everyone's like, "What?"
Yeah,
I'm Irish.
You're not Irish at all.
You're Romanian.
You're more Romanian than anybody I know. You literally have kept animals.
You have a farm.
Yeah, you're the most
goats, chickens, ducks.
No, I had goats. Now I have chickens.
Yeah, you have.
Let's not talk about the goats.
Anyway,
back to the story. So Abraham and Ephron and the sons of Heth, everybody walks away having maintained a good relationship, and Abraham displayed the integrity and respect and business acumen that exemplifies a true man of God, in my opinion. This is a very important for everybody can learn what it's like or what it should look like to carry yourself amongst other people who maybe don't have the same beliefs as you. You should never be condescending. Abraham bowed his head down to these men. You should never think that you're better, and you should never take hands out. If God promised you something, stay firm.
Handouts.
Because
Not
Abraham had 400 pieces of silver just to be able to pay it, which was an exorbitant amount of money.
So you should never be broke either.
Yeah. God loves you, you're rich.
No, don't say that.
I'm just kidding.
That's
Do you know
not true.
between Adam and Eve and Jesus, it was 4,000 years?
Yes, and it's been okay.
Are you trying to allude to the number 4?
Jacob or Josh, don't.
Yes. 400 shekels
I'm
of
gonna blow
silver.
Josh's mind right now. Do you know how many trees there were there? Dude? There were like 400 trees there.
Nathan, if you can read for us verses 17 through 20.
Oh, we're still reading that whole thing over there?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. He buys a plot of land.
I can read it, yeah. So
It's not it for me, so
We'll
just
get back
read
to
it and then
we have much more content to cover.
Because it's like a lot more.
I don't know,
spent a lot
man.
of time on these negotiations.
I don't know why.
Nathan was
Talking
the
so
debate-
much about
Heaven, if heaven's
pretty
real.
deep. Sarah died. Anyway,
I mean,
so
it
the
is
field
deep. All right,
so-
go.
So the field at Ephron, which was in Machpelah,
Machpelah.
which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it,
God, I saw Josh get so excited.
and all the trees that were in the field, which were within all the surrounding borders, were deeded. There has to be a more efficient way of describing that, dude.
Just read the translation.
To Abraham as a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who went in at the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Heth as property for a burial place.
Very important because it was deeded. I just wanted it to be read so you see the verses. So that ends chapter 23, and it brings us to
The most important part of this next segment.
Okay, so talking about the cave of Machpelah.
okay, Josh.
Oh, Nathan, you don't want to be here for this? Okay,
He does. He hears it. Nathan needed a Capri Sun break, apparently.
So
What are you, 12?
oh my gosh, more drinks? You were just eating? You just had a Capri Sun.
It's all right. Continue, Josh.
Why is
All right,
everybody
all right.
criticizing me for having
So-
a drink? What is wrong with you?
It's all right. I got my drink. I'm actually gonna take a sip right now.
There you go.
If you haven't yet, like and subscribe.
The
And
cave
Capri
of
Suns are
Machpelah.
delicious, by the way.
Let's get into this.
Okay, Josh.
So the cave of Machpelah, which makes it such an interesting cave, is because it basically means the cave of a doubled cave of twofold, or of twofold. Basically, it could have been up and down, so two caves on top of each other, or back to back, and it could also mean, some people believe that it could mean couples. So Adam and Eve were buried there, Abraham and Sarah buried there, Isaac and Rebekah, and then Jacob and Leah. Later on, they referred to this area as the city of the four couples, basically.
the 4 patriarchs, essentially, yeah.
Yeah, so the city of the 4 patriarchs.
Oh, I didn't even realize this. They said that some people, according to Jewish tradition, they could be the entrance to the Garden of Eden there.
Yes, the entrance to the Garden of Eden, for Jewish mystics. But whatever. Let's just say it is. Let's just say it was never the trees from the beginning. It's not about the trees. It's about Mamre. It's about the location. He just dwelt in the trees because it's easier to set up tents when you have trees surrounding you and you have the shade and the cover from rain and stuff like that. But either way, it was never about the trees.
It was always
about
the cave.
No, it was about the location. Because if this is the location that Adam and Eve were buried, then it has a significance because that was the first couple. That was the first couple before Abraham and Sarah. Now, Abraham and Sarah to be buried there, that's the second couple. And then later on, we have more. But for Abraham to bury his wife where Adam and Eve were buried, it has significant value to God as well. And if that place is the entrance, is the so-called entrance to the Garden of Eden, that's where it gets even more wild. And that would also explain why God always came to Abraham when he was by the trees of Mamre. You get what I'm saying here? Because we were no longer allowed in the Garden of Eden, but for them to be at the entrance of the Garden of Eden, not at the very entrance where the cherubim is flaming his sword around, that would be wild. And we would obviously see, Abraham
would
looking
probably
at
be like, hey, man, that must be where Eden is.
Exactly. But that's where I'm kind of coming to my conclusion that.
Yeah, but that's where the promised land is too.
Let me just
exactly.
Is the promised land the Garden of Eden?
I mean, it's
and Mamre, where they are,
way too long without refuting some things. Hold on,
where they are basically is this place is on the West Bank. Where is Jesus? Where is Jesus born? On the West Bank, 4,000 years after Adam and Eve. And then this is where we also get the number 400.
Bethlehem.
Yes, Bethlehem is.
It's on the West Bank, Andrew.
It's on the West Bank. Which.
Hey, you know what?
Hold on. He got to the 400 years.
I'm booking my
400 years.
To that cave.
Abraham bought the place for 400 years. At the beginning, when Abraham is making the covenant with God, what does God have him do? Remember remember the 300 and then the 400 year, the fourth 100 year that they would be saved with the whole animals when he cut them into pieces and stuff like that.
They spent 400 years in
captivity.
And he showed them that for 400 years, there'll be a stranger in a foreign land.
400
exactly.
pieces of silver.
Goes, and it ties with this. 400. He bought it for 400 shekels. It's almost like a foreshadowing event of what's to come.
You ever
He's
see that?
buying.
There's only going to be 400 people in heaven.
You ever see that one meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Charlie has like all the red strings on the wall, and he's like trying to explain this vast conspiracy?
Yes, I know. Yeah,
this is Josh right now.
Not really. It's not. Josh isn't saying anything outlandish. I mean, everything he said is kind of on point.
It's also said, and different rabbis also.
God spoke to Abraham because he chose Abraham. He also spoke to him when he wasn't in his land. So he didn't only come to him because he was there.
No, I know that.
God would have spoke to Abraham anyway.
It's just a happy coincidence that he
I get that,
to
but
be led to the
majority of the
Adam
important. The majority of the important
confirmed.
conversations happened with Abraham by the trees of Mamre, or in Mamre. Which is also wild on why he would be a foreigner in that land. Basically, it kind of has to even tie in with what you were saying from Hebrews. You know what I mean?
Okay.
As if maybe he wasn't like literally a foreigner, but he was basically saying, like how you said, I am a foreigner on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
I am looking for a place to bury my wife because we are not meant to be here permanently. We are just foreigners here.
He just keeps walking in the cave and comes up to the fire chair. He's like, I'm a foreigner here. I'm going home.
So what I was trying to say is that it is said to believe that anyone who is buried there has earned a great reward in heaven.
Oh, yeah, because it was the burial place of the major patriarchs and matriarchs of the faith, like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Rebecca, Leah, Sarah.
Where is this place at now?
Modern day.
Oh yeah. So leading to King Herod built a giant. Basically, he built a giant like monument there, and a bunch of basically. They
King
built
Herod
a huge
of Jesus's time.
They built a huge structure there. A lot of wars have been fought over this area. A lot of wars have been fought over it, and it's been destroyed and rebuilt.
Do they not know the exact cave?
They
Yeah, they
Well-
do. They have a whole thing around it. It's
Yeah.
one of the patriarchs. It's like a whole like catacomb.
they know exactly where it is.
So why is nobody going there?
They do. But
That's one of like the
obviously
major
not
places.
actually the Garden of Eden entrance, guys. We know this. Like it's just a mystic understanding.
Unless it
Anyway.
was, or it is. Maybe it is.
Who
Okay.
says the Garden of Eden is?
We
in this
need Indiana
dimension?
Jones out there, man. I'm telling you, we need Indiana Jones to find the golden skull of crystals or whatever he does find. The golden compass?
The golden
No?
compass. It was the golden skull from Aliens. But anyway, let's continue.
From aliens.
So the one Indiana Jones movie where he finds the crystal Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull is the one where he was already old and
But you said
Harrison
from
Ford.
aliens.
yeah, because the Crystal Skull was an alien skull.
Oh my
it was
gosh.
an alien
Either way,
skull, not the movie.
I'm happy to announce that was my conclusion, and maybe things might change later on, but that is basically my hypothetical conclusion of Mamre, aka the
deduction.
trees of Mamre. That it's not necessarily about the trees, but it was the location of that area that was so significant that Abraham was like, God's people need to own this, not the Hittites, because the Hittites are bad guys.
I don't get it. How did they know that Adam and Eve were buried there?
They don't. It's just understood as like it was like a mythology almost.
Unless
So-
God revealed to him that he was buried there. That's why he's
I don't
like,
know. I
I
didn't
need
look
to buy
up
this
why
place.
people would have believed that because I'm kind of figuring this out right now for the first time, despite what I did look up. So interesting. Thank you, Josh. The trees of Mamre and the land of Mamre and its significance all comes to a head. I wouldn't have been able to put those pieces together. Only Joshua could have.
Wait, what? They just know where Adam and Eve were?
Nobody knows, man. I don't know.
What about?
Well, they
Why are
knew.
you asking me? Like we have, obviously there's
They
nothing.
knew. We don't know how the pyramids were built, but they were built.
That
So
is true.
things must have been different back then, okay?
For sure. Genesis chapter 4 covers
24.
Genesis chapter 24 covers Abraham's journey into finding, well, not Abraham's journey, but Abraham's.
Should we even go into this? Because we're
This is
almost
a-
an hour in.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into this.
Okay.
We're gonna
It's a
to.
2-hour long episode, guys.
Well, we spent a lot of time on heaven.
You spent a lot of time on just Abraham mourning. Like, yeah, he mourned for his wife.
He was sad, guys. It's
Like, it really struck me.
You
that
could
he-
have summarized
and
it with he
mourned for
was
his
sad.
wife he was married to
I just never
forever.
thought about. Anyway, whatever.
What do you think? They just their wives they didn't care?
Well, they do actually. It's funny you mentioned that because going into Isaac finding a bride in chapter 24.
Look, Isaac doesn't strike me as the brightest berry in the bush.
Okay, it's funny that you say that.
Why are we going up this mountain, Papa?
Yeah.
This is not true at all. This is not true. He's actually, it's so interesting you say that. Because I don't know anything about Isaac like you do about Abraham, Jacob, Joseph going
Yeah.
down. Like you don't really, Isaac's kind of one that there's not a lot of meat to his story. There is a little bit, but this is the beginning and we learn a little bit about Abraham. Now,
Didn't
In
he
chapter
give
24
the birthright to the wrong son?
No. That is him. He gave the birthright to the wrong
Isaac
one.
is not dumb. Can we not?
He wasn't the
All right, he's
smartest
not-
one out of
He's
the
not dumb.
patriarchs, so I'll try to be
Just Abraham had to send his servant out to go find him a wife. Because,
Listen, this is important.
obviously
Yeah, why
Isaac
did
couldn't do it
Abraham
on
have
his
to
own.
stop send a servant to find him a wife?
Listen, it says why. Nathan, read verses 1 through
If you say
1 through
like
3.
I was about to say, if you say 1 through 15.
Yeah, we're not doing that. I was going to have you, but we've covered a lot, so we need to move it.
Now
on.
Abraham was old, well advanced in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. So Abraham said to the oldest servant of his house, who ruled over all the land that he had, "Please put your hand under my thigh. And I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of the earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell."
Yeah, so this is what Josh was saying.
Intense way to be racist.
Listen, Josh brought that up in a little bit before. He made him swear not to bring him a wife from any of the Canaanites, specifically because he wanted somebody from his own country, from his own tribe, essentially, that would have.
But you shall go to my country and to my family and take a wife for my son Isaac.
Exactly. He wanted somebody kind of closer to the line that he had. Hand under the thigh.
I mean, that's
disclaimer, things might get a little graphic here, so if you have children
that's
listening,
the way they did oaths.
Nathan,
please send them away.
grab my thigh real quick.
No.
I promise. Promise me that you...
His hand was under his thigh, not just grabbing the thigh.
When I was really research for this episode, I'm going to complete disclaimer, and I didn't expect to discover what I did, and I had to confirm, triple confirm, and quadruple confirm with sources and a lot of studying doing. When it says on the thigh, there are different. In the original Hebrew, yarek also means like the loins. Essentially, what it comes down to is it was like not just under the thigh. Some people say it was like he sat on his hand as a sign of submission. Abraham he's old at this point, says well advanced in year. He calls his longest servant, which also would have been an old man. Let me note, because he would have been his oldest servant. And
so you're basically saying he grabbed him by the balls.
He didn't just grab him by the balls. He grabbed him by the holiest thing he had on hand, which would have been the physical sign of the covenant that he had with God, the circumcision in his flesh.
The twig and the berries.
The bangers and mash. He made him promise by the part of him, not only where his seed comes from, where God promised the future generations, but put your hand here on the sign of my physical...
It sounds wild, but it makes sense. It makes sense. It's the only physical evidence of what God gave, basically told them to do as a covenant towards him. So yeah,
it was something like by the covenant, by the promise I made to God, swear to me. This is the holiest thing I have.
It's weird and graphic to think about, just grab it and swear by.
A lot of cultures today that grab themselves by the crotch.
Well, according to the Midrash Rabbah,
themselves, but to grab somebody else, and that's that word of mouth, like promise, contract right there is not going away so far.
They've never heard of pinky promise up until this point. None of this. It had to.
I think maybe they went to that because people just got so sick and tired of grabbing everybody by the balls.
The only other person to do this in the Bible would have been Jacob asking Joseph to do it when he swears to bury him in the same place, not to bury him in Egypt.
What struck me is, so Abraham said to the oldest servant of his house, who ruled over all that he had, why didn't Isaac rule over all that he had?
It was the guy that was in charge. It wasn't the guy who ruled. Abraham had yet to die. And
it literally said who ruled over all that he had.
Obviously, we know that the servant wasn't the guy that was in charge over Abraham. Abraham was still alive. Isaac had yet to inherit.
I'm not saying he was in charge of Abraham, but he was running things.
Yeah.
Why wasn't Isaac running things?
Because he didn't have a wife, and until you have a wife...
It's just like Adam. Adam didn't own all animals, but he was allowed to rule over all animals.
It wasn't too much of a thing.
This guy was just a servant that was in charge of the household.
Yeah, it was like the manager of like all the, like when you're the guy that owns everything.
He's the manager of Hilton.
The manager of McDonald's is not the same thing as the owner of the franchise.
Is it not? I always thought it was.
You have to call
whenever I asked for the manager.
Yeah,
I thought I was talking to the owner.
Yeah, you're not talking to the guy that is getting paid by McDonald's to have that line.
But a franchise
one
owner,
more thing I want to read real quick, and we'll move on. Based on the Midrash Rabbah, which is a collection of rabbinic commentaries of Scripture, the reason it is important is because one who takes an oath must hold his hand on a sacred object, such as a scroll or the Torah, and the circumcision was Abraham's first commandment and came to him through suffering, and it was beloved to him, and he chose it as the object in which to promise the oath. So that's just kind of closes that.
That makes sense.
That's why it wasn't just his thigh, because what significance does a thigh have?
When we make an oath, we put our hands on the Bible and make an oath.
Exactly like in courts. Put your right hand on the Bible, put your hand on something sacred. I just wanted to bring that up. I'm not just saying grab yourself by the crotch and I swear, the Bible tells us now you should, actually Jesus tells us You should never swear. Let your yeses be yes and your no's be no's. So we know that this is kind of something we don't do nowadays.
Well, I was gonna say in a lot of gangster movies, like the Italians grab themselves by the crotch and say stuff.
Yeah, this is kind of the origin of.
They're old school, man. They're old school.
Anyway, the servant was wanted to take Isaac. The next portion, like as he went, he wanted to take Isaac with him because he believed that whoever he found wouldn't want to come back with him. But this is very, very interesting. Abraham charges him not to take him out of the land of promise and says that instead an angel of the Lord will go before him. And he's convinced that he should not, which is so funny to me because up until now, Abraham, like if there was a famine, he would go to Egypt, right? If something would happen, he would lie about his wife and what, but he had gotten to the point where he trusted in God's promise and believed in it so much where he would not even allow Isaac to be taken out of the land of promise because he saw that would be kind of an express lack of faith in God's ability to provide. The Lord who took me from my father's house. He speaks in this way where he won't have it. He's like, listen, God will provide, go out. And a lot of people believe that this servant, it's not a named servant, but Eliezer, who would have been the one that would have inherited if Abraham never had children, the first servant, they say that it could have been him. I don't see anywhere that it confirms that, but essentially just imagine like the servant that would have been with him the longest was charged with going out on this journey and finding a wife. Now, Nathan, if you could read verses 10 through 14 in chapter 24.
Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and departed, for all his master's goods were in his hand. And he arose and went to
some embezzlement going.
Well, make the oath, grab out of my thigh, his goods were in his hand.
Goods
and he
I didn't even see that one. Goodness gracious.
And he rose and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. And he made his camels kneel down outside the city by a well of water at evening time, the time when women go out to draw water. Then he said, O Lord God of my master Abraham. He doesn't even say, O Lord my God. What is wrong with this guy?
That's exactly. There's a point.
Please give me success this day and show kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, here I stand by the well of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now let it be that the young woman to whom I say, please let down your pitcher that I may drink. And she says, drink, and I will also give your camels a drink. Let her be the one you have appointed for your servant Isaac. And by this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master.
And literally it says that before he even finished speaking in his heart, Rebecca, granddaughter of Nahor, Abraham's Abraham's brother, was coming out with a pitcher, and he asked, and she said, drink, my Lord. And she just immediately rushed in and did exactly what he said. I mean, he brought 10 camels. The camels back at that time probably would have been like, one humped camels that were common.
What a go-getter she was.
But these beasts can drink upwards of like 25 to 40 gallons in one sitting. It wasn't a little task to be like, it would have been extremely inconvenient for somebody that's already having to go out, draw water for the entire household, to then take time and draw out water, not only for a traveler, but all of his camels. So it shows that he was looking for somebody that would have been very...
how many buckets did she come back with?
Harnik in English?
Very harnika. It's a Romanian term that means harnika.
That's the second time we referred to Romanians here in this episode. The word is more like very hardworking, very humble, very willing to not complain and to work and to do what needs to be done. And this would have been Noah's great niece, Rebecca. And it's very interesting that it says a young woman was very beautiful, and behold, a virgin. No man had known her, and she went down to the well and filled up her pitcher and came up. And essentially she gave to every one of the camels, made sure they were fully satisfied. And the servant is kind of there just dumbfounded because essentially...
Harnik means busy, diligently, hardworking, industrious.
Yeah, that's the word. I always forget how to translate that correctly. But whenever the servant realizes what she's doing and she kind of sees... quickly emptied her pitcher and ran. As she was running back and forth, he was just sitting there kind of staring. And when it was that the camels had finished drinking, he takes a golden nose ring weighing half a shekel and 2 bracelets for her wrists weighing 10 shekels of gold. And he asks her, he gives these gifts to her and says, "Whose daughter are you? Please tell me, is there room in your father's house to lodge?" So she pretty much tells him who she is and pretty much goes back and tells her household all the things that just happened. Hey, there's this man.
Yeah.
Is there room here? And a very interesting character pops up. Oh, actually, no, before that, the man that was praying and said, "Let the Lord God of my master," then he begins to bend down and blesses the Lord God, kind of like of his master, and he kind of starts to begin to worship him, even though he still calls him, it's not his God, but he's starting to see how God is working through him, just like Abraham said he would, which I think
when
is
you
important.
see a miracle happen right before your eyes, you have no choice but to be like, "Thank you, God," like basically bless the Lord.
Yeah,
because he's the one that does it all.
It's really, it was a cool moment to see that, like, exactly what he asked, even before he finished speaking, it's exactly what was promised, or what he asked for the Lord to do. It was done. God knew what he needed before he even knew what he needed. And he had already prepared this person, this young, it says very beautiful girl who was a virgin. And Laban comes out after she goes back, and from verses 29 to 31, Laban would be a very important character here in the very near stories that were coming up, being the uncle of Jacob, Rebekah's son. Laban, her brother, when he hears what had happened after he had gone home, comes out, and when he sees the nose ring and the bracelets, he goes out and sees to see if everything's actually legit, and he invites him back to his house, his father's house, Bethuel's house, and there they bring out food and they bring out water and they bring the servant down and they say, "We have enough straw, we have enough place for you to sit. Come and sit down." Obviously, there's a very wealthy traveler who just gave gifts to this little girl. But this is interesting. He's like, the servant is saying, "Before I eat, let me just tell you everything that happened." So he kind of recounts the events that just take place, and
his prayer.
His
God,
prayer.
Like, may the one that is for Isaac
but
do the whole thing.
Laban and Bethuel kind of have a passive response. Nathan, read verses 51 through 50, or 50 to 51, the 2 verses. After the servant tells him all this thing, tell me, he's like, "Tell me what I should do. Should I lay on my right hand, or give me your permission now that I've told you everything that I've just told you? Isn't this wild?" This is
Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, "The thing that comes from the Lord, we cannot speak to you either bad or good. Here is Rebekah before you. Take her and go, and let her be your master's son's wife, as the Lord has spoken."
Yeah, who's to say whether it's good or bad? Just, here she is. Take her, obviously. They weren't against it fully because obviously this guy is rich and she would be set up, and having a relationship in that family would have been good. But it's not like they were like, oh my God, like they believed in God so much. It was customary in that time in ancient Europe and where they're in the ancient world where they were from to acknowledge other people's gods. Like, oh, you believe that God works too, because we know that we don't necessarily know how far Nahor and his family followed the one true God.
Either way, Abraham. They basically say everything comes from the Lord. Well, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but if that's what the Lord says, take her and go.
Yeah. But then it said after that, when they say that, says Abraham's servant worshiped the Lord, bowing himself to the earth, and brought out some gifts, jewelry, silver, and clothing, and gave them to Rebekah, and also gave precious things to her brother Laban and her mother, and just pretty much, he stayed and he ate and drank, it says, all night. But then afterwards, you could see again, there was some hesitancy for some reason.
The nature of man, man. They just got really, wait a second, we just got some gold for one night? How about you let her stay here a few days and see how much they're willing to give up? Yeah,
it literally said, that's actually exactly right. You see the true nature of Laban already coming out. And we know that Laban's a little bit of a shicey trickster. Laban's willing to cut some corners. And we're going to find out exactly how here very soon. But let's just say this isn't the first time, but read verses 57 to 58.
So they said, "We will call the young woman and ask her personally." Then they called Rebekah and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" And she said, "I will go."
Yeah, so they put it upon her. They kind of wanted to save face. Laban's like,
After they got all the money and all the jewelry,
but they wanted to keep her longer. It's like, give us at least 10 days before she, because yesterday they're like, go. And all of a sudden, like, let her stay for another 10 days. And the servant's like, I'm not going to wait. I got to go. Like, we got to make decisions. She's like, okay, well, let's see if Rebecca would want to. I don't even know. And maybe they thought Rebecca would be like, I don't know. Maybe I should stay with my family 10 more days.
Which is interesting because at that time, at that point in time in history, the daughters, they didn't really have that choice.
They didn't make a choice.
Yeah, that was an interesting
for them
thing.
to even ask her was just kind of very it was sneaky. It was
they would have assumed that she would have said like, oh no, like she would have listened to whatever her father and uncle said. You know what I mean?
So basically, Abraham sends his oldest servant out and said, the angel of the Lord will be before you. And the servant goes to this place and he puts a sign before God and says, the person that wants to give me water and my camels water, right? Camels.
That feeds all 10 of my
feeds
camels.
all 10 of my camels. That's the one. And immediately this beautiful young woman comes and does that. And then he goes to her family. He's like, man, I prayed this and it came true. And they were like, who's to say? And then they're like, she could go with him. And then he wakes up and they're like, yeah, she has to stay a little bit longer. And she does. And then they finally ask her, like, hey, do you really want to go? And she's like, yeah, I really want to go. And that, kids, is how I met your mother.
All that so you can do it How I Met Your Mother joke.
Yeah.
What about? I wonder if there was any other ladies probably like just chilling by the well.
Maybe it's like custom for them to give water to the camels. I don't know.
No,
I mean,
it wasn't.
Maybe it was very inconvenient. I'm telling you,
it was probably inconvenient, but maybe there was.
I just said,
like how you said to be generous and hospitable towards people that are new to your city.
Yeah.
Maybe that was like a thing that how Nathan said that people did back in the day, that they watered them and stuff like that, but
not like that. That's why he made that point specifically. But either way, after that, this little when they see that she's gonna pretty much go with him and they don't argue, it's interesting. They actually end up leaving on good terms and they blessed Rebecca and gave her a blessing. Our sister, may you become the mother of thousands of tens of thousands, and may your descendants possess the gate of those who hate them. And Rebecca, actually, you were talking about Isaac being who you think Isaac is. We're going to find Isaac and how he meets Rebecca. This is like one of the only things we know about the character of Isaac other than the future stories. Nathan, read 62 to 67 for us.
Now, Isaac came from the way of Beer, Lahoy Roy, for he dwelt in the south. Is that how you read that?
Beer, Lahoy Roy.
And Isaac went out to meditate in the field in the evening, and he lifted his eyes and looked, and there the camels were coming. Then Rebekah lifted her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from her camel, for she had said to the servant, who is this man walking in the field to meet us? The servant said, it is my master. So she took a veil and covered herself, and the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done.
She took the veal.
Is that how?
Take a nice veal, you marinate it, put it over her face.
You take this veal and you pounded the meat. No, took a veil and covered herself. I'm sorry.
I can't stop imagining just a big piece of meat on her face.
You take
put this over your face.
And you pounded the meat. You season it like this. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death.
So the first thing we see Isaac doing, really, other than, being Isaac, is just he's out in a field just meditating.
Yeah, because, he's rich. He has plenty of time to be rich. Rich people, that's what they do. They just meditate.
Apparently.
And do yoga and stuff like that. They have time.
Yeah.
They don't have to
Being
work.
useless is the commodity of the rich.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was going to say he was kind of introspective and thinking. You guys were all saying that he was dumb. I was like, look, all we see is him being...
Here's the thing about dumb people.
Field, just like, huh?
Here's the thing about dumb people. They always try to think.
Why is our podcast identifying Isaac as?
I never said he's dumb. I just said he wasn't the brightest berry.
I'm sorry. I
this
feel like
bush
we need to
is
pray
full of really bright
episode.
berries. He just happens to be the dullest one.
Oh my God. Okay.
What are you doing? You're comparing him to Abraham.
Abraham.
And then after Isaac is Jacob. After Jacob is Joseph.
Well, technically, yeah.
Isaac is like the least
Then there's
talked about
Moses.
Well, that's like way down the way.
I know, but I'm just saying, there's some bright berries in this bush. Isaac is one of them. He's one of the berries.
He's the patriarch. He's very
he
important.
He's important.
And we're going to see why he's important. But interesting to note, she's beautiful. She covers herself with a veil as is custom at the time. You see people like she's not just going to walk out with her open face. But he loved her. I don't know where else I've read that, like other than, when Abraham mourned. I don't know. There's just these relationships that in the ancient world, love and that wasn't always as common. It was a lot of like fixed marriages. Like this is literally an arranged marriage. It doesn't usually start off with like love like that. It's like, oh, I found you a wife. It wasn't Abraham or Isaac met her. They went on a couple dates. They got to know each other. They both went and walking in the field. But I think it was beautiful how God prepared all these things where even if it was like this and he had to take a wife from a specific line, not amongst the Canaanites, that God chose the perfect person for him that he loved and that he was comforted through.
And you take this meat and you found it.
He just happened to be a huge fan of veal. It was his favorite meat. And he's like, how did you know?
Thank you.
So are we going to keep going?
We're finishing. We're almost
to the point
done.
where Abraham cheated on Sarah?
He didn't cheat on Sarah. So that ends chapter 24. 25 begins with Abraham remarrying because the old dog still got it in him, apparently.
At 190 or however old.
Abraham lived to 175. So literally from the time that he was called out of his father's house and God said, Abraham, I'm going to make you a father of many nations, he lived another 100 years. And it said that he was a good old age, full of years. But before that, Abraham marries a woman called Keturah.
And she bore him lots of kids.
Apparently.
Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua.
Now, who was Keturah?
Who was she? Was she from the land of his hometown?
She was from the land of Keturah.
They say, First Chronicles chapter 1, verse 32 calls her one of Abraham's concubines or his concubines. So it could have been one of his concubines or mistresses that he elevated to the state of wife after the death of Sarah. And she had a few children. Now,
according to one opinion in the Mizrahic work of Genesis Rabbah, Keturah and Hagar are names for the same person.
Yeah, I was about to say that some people believe that Hagar and Keturah would have been the same.
So he remarried, or married? No, because he was never married to Hagar in the first place. He married Hagar. If
some people believe
true.
That's one school of thought. Some people think it's a completely other person because
the name is different.
I don't know why they would spend that much time going through a completely not even similar name whatsoever.
But that could explain why Ishmael shows up.
I mean, not really, but kind of. He was in the vicinity. But out of all the children Abraham has, remember, all of Abraham's seeds would have been important because, he was promised that he'll have many nations. All of them become heads of nations, but the only notable one I'm going to mention was the fourth son of Abraham and Keturah, which was Midian. Midian was the father of the Midianites, and most famously, the father of a Midianite named Jethro. Jethro would have been the father-in-law of Moses. Moses would have taken a wife named Zipporah. And Moses is one of the heaviest hitters of all the heavy hitters in the Bible.
Take off thy sandals, for thy standeth on holy ground.
The Midians would have had like a whole tribe nation in like that area of the wilderness. And the question is Zipporah's line can be tracked back to Abraham just like Moses. Where did Zipporah get her? She was known as like an Ethiopian-ness almost, if not from her father. Ethiopian being more like African or dark-skinned. If not from her father, then there are, of course, various possibilities of intermarriage throughout the generations, but it's highly plausible that Abraham's second wife, Keturah, was not Hagar, the Egyptian, but maybe somebody like Ethiopian or like darker skin, someone from further.
Was Abraham black?
No, but we're saying Keturah might have been. Josh.
What if he was?
Oh, okay, we're done. We're not doing that. I'm cutting you off there.
Let me read about the death.
Well, Abraham leaves gifts for all these other children, but he says right before this in verse 7 that he leaves all he has to Isaac, who will take over as patriarch in Abraham's place.
Well,
And
everybody
obviously
knew that.
gifts are a big thing, because if the gifts that he gave to Laban and his family, and he brought 10 camels with him because of all the gifts that he had, I imagine that the gifts that he gave his children were pretty big. Like they weren't
awesome.
just
So like they probably got like land and stuff like that, and then like Ishmael was given a sack, but Isaac definitely was given the rest of
just a
everything.
sack. Bye.
Here's
Not even
bow
a
and arrow.
donkey.
Ishmael was given the gift of having faith in God that you will survive.
Ishmael was given the experience of starving to death.
Son, I'm gonna make you a faithful man. You're going to believe in the Almighty God because that's the only way you're going to be provided for.
And you wonder why he always wanted to fight all of his brothers. Nathan, read verses 7 to 11, the conclusion and the death of the patriarch Abraham.
This is the sum of the years of Abraham's life, which he lived, 175 years. Then Abraham breathed his last, and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. And his sons, the only two that he had, Isaac and Ishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, the field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth. There Abraham was buried, and Sarah his wife. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt at Beer Lahai Roy. Quick note, it doesn't say the only two that he had. I added that.
Yeah, because he said those are the only two that were important. But we have a reunion.
Those are the only two that were probably old enough to have any significance in even burying their father, because the other ones probably were pretty young still at this point. Then.
Well, a lot of time would have passed, because if he lived to 175, I mean, a lot of the events that just took place, is like even Isaac's almost sacrifice would have taken place like when he was maybe 113, 120. So that would have been another 50 years after that. You know, we don't know how many years.
Yeah, but Sarah died at what, 125?
7 or what was
127.
It exactly? Yeah, it tells us.
So
the
she
exact
died at
age.
127. That Abraham at that point was somewhere around.
We can do the math here.
147.
127 years. If Abraham was, what was he, 100 when Isaac was born?
And
Yes,
she was
100, and then she was 90.
No, she was like 89 or
No,
something.
she was 90. So 120.
So there's a 10-year
whatever.
difference.
The math. You guys can do the math on your own. I'm not.
Not mathematicians.
We're not mathematicians. We're storytellers.
Hey, listen. It's important to note that Ishmael and Isaac were the two, because technically Isaac was the firstborn, and Ishmael, Ishmael was the other one.
Ishmael, he gave his gifts. Ishmael, he gave a sack.
He gave a sack to.
Oh, man. Ishmael's
All
always
the
10
other
years.
kids, when they found
There's
out
a
about
10-year
Ishmael, they're
difference
like,
between them. I just
"What
looked
piece
it
of
up.
land
There's a
did
10-year
you
difference.
get?"
So that would mean
Hold on. What?
when she died, he was 137. So by the time he remarried, I imagine it wasn't like a quick remarry. It was probably,
Give him a
let's say,
year.
140.
Okay.
So 140. So that means
Another
from the time
35 years.
That's 35 years. Well, at that point, 35 is still pretty young, I guess.
Hey, Jesus gave him, 33.
All the other sons go to Ishmael. How many camels did you get from Papa?
Yeah, what did you inherit? Yeah, pretty much. What did you inherit, Ishmael? You guys
died.
inherited stuff? I thought only Isaac gets everything.
He's like,
No,
he
you get
He
a
just
lot.
kicked me out.
Oh, I'm gonna go to such war with all of you.
My descendants will always be warring with you.
Look at my
hand will
bow.
always be against my brothers.
All right. Enough about him.
Ishmael and Isaac come together. They're united with love by the love and reverence they had for the father, who loved both of them very dearly. Abraham loved Ishmael, and Abraham loved Isaac. I'm sure he loved all
Yeah.
his kids because he left them gifts. He didn't just cast them out like, you guys were afterthoughts. But he does a lot. A lot happens. I mean, negotiation wasn't a lot, but he did an important thing. He lived almost like an entire other life.
Us.
Yeah, he lived he remarried and had all these kids, found his wife for his son. And
For him to have that many children, he had to have lived a good amount with her, unless she was just having children back to back to back to back to back to back.
Well, I mean, I did read somewhere as well. That
Isaac was 75 when his dad died?
I think so. Well, that's the problem. So I read in some places, some people believe that because when he found Isaac a wife, it was like to be able to solidify the continuation of his line and to make sure that the descendants will continue. But after so much time had passed and Isaac had not yet had children with Rebekah, and maybe he saw that similar situation, he took another wife and had more children, as many as possible. So
he took matters into his own hands.
Again, kind of. And you see the children of Abraham, the rest of them, the ones that were named, they are going to be kind of like, they're not always good. They're not always like helpful to Israel. There are warring countries against.
You know what's crazy? This whole time, I mean, I'm just going to put it out. I don't think a lot of people realize that Abraham had more children than just Ishmael and Isaac.
I know, that's
everybody
why I said.
just assumes it's just those two.
Yeah, all of them became heads of different nations and peoples of all of like the Arabian Peninsula. Like they kind of that all comes from Abraham. He was the father of many nations.
Yeah,
Father Abraham had many sons. Many
and
sons.
He was also buried in Mamre, he was buried before Mamre in Machpelah.
That's why I was saying earlier, whenever he was finding a burial plot, he knew that he was going to find one not just for his wife, but for himself as well.
So he wanted to buy it so that he would make sure that he would end up there as well.
Exactly. Yeah, both Ishmael and Isaac.
Because who knows if his son Isaac would have been able to bargain that deal as good as Abraham.
Well, I mean, Isaac does like to study the nature.
He likes to meditate out in fields. And
there
you have it. That is the end of the story of Abraham in the Bible.
How about the families of Ishmael and Isaac?
We're not going to do that.
We'll recap that when we enter into the next portion. The next episode will be covering the life of Isaac and the beginning of his warring nation of a son. Seems
Guess
to be
what time it is?
Going on.
It's greater meeting time.
Oh, it's greater meeting time.
Andrew,
this you always be a little bit special because you're kind of recapping the entire story of Abraham, not just in this episode, not just in this story, but thinking about Abraham's life in totality. I see the evolution of his life and the evolution of the levels of his faith, and it gives me a lot of encouragement. It gives me a lot because he was a man that was called. He's called a friend of God. He was faithful and obedient to his commandment every step of the way, but he had his pitfalls. He had his mistakes and he had the things which he struggled with, maybe even to the end. Maybe even, with after Isaac got married, he saw that kids weren't coming and he had to take matters in his own hands. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just saying, he was human at the end of the day. And even seeing his life, it gives it even more evident proof that we were in need of salvation and a Savior. That God was faithful to provide his promises, but it doesn't matter how good you think you are. We all have faults and we all have failings. And Abraham's life teaches me that as long as you keep being obedient to God, you keep listening to him and putting all your faith in him, having faith in the one that gives the promise, not just in the promised goods themselves, everything will work out exactly the way God spoke. I think that seeing the evolution of Abraham's life also, that he goes from at one point fleeing famine to try to find comfort in other lands like his descendants will, right? Like, they go to Egypt because there's a famine and that ends up not working out great for them. They leave the promised land to the point at the old age where he would not even allow his son to leave the land because this is the land that God had promised. And I would not let you take him out of here. That speaks volumes to me about the the growth and the evolution of Abraham's faith, and how we all should be walking with God, and through the experiences of our life, growing and deepening in our faith with him. And it just takes that first step of what God is calling you. He calls all of us, like he called Abraham out of his father's house. He stands at the door and he knocks. And those that hear and open, he will come in. We have to open that door, and we have to take that first step. Take that step out of Father's house and be obedient to God.
Amen.
That's my greater meaning from Abraham.
I guess I'll go next. My greater meaning. And since we're doing this whole story, I thought we were just doing,
Oh, you can. I just thought I'd recap, yeah.
No, we'll go with the whole thing. I guess mine would be more on the basis of sometimes you just have to leave. And sometimes you just have to go, not knowing where you're going to end up, but just on the faith that God is with you. Abraham, Isaac, Abraham's servant, Hagar, all these people throughout this whole story, even Sarah, they were, they found themselves sometimes at a point where they didn't know what was going on. And the Lord always guided them, even when they thought it was all over, even when they thought that there was no way to come about things in a good way, that they took matters into their own hands and tried to do things the way that they thought that it needed to be done. But God always showed up and always kept true to his promise of whatever he was promising. But in our lives, sometimes we don't know where God is leading us. Sometimes we don't know where we're going. But as long as you stay true to God, he will always show himself to you and guide you in the direction that you need to be guided. That's my greater meaning.
Nice. Nathan?
You like Josh's greater meaning, Andrew? That was nice. My greater meaning was, the story of Abraham hits pretty hard with me because in my own life, I have kind of thrown myself sometimes. I found in my personal life that I have thrown myself to literally, I'm on a journey to find what the will of God is for me in my life, right? I'm trying to listen to the instructions God has given me. I'm not Abraham. I don't have the ability to stay like Abraham is a giant in the Bible. He's a patriarch, right? I am like a flea next to Abraham in my own faith. And that's what I work on every single day is, man, how do I become more faithful? Not in the terms of that I don't believe God will work in my life, but how do I become more faithful in the fact that I am not the failure? I'm not the slave to the sins that I struggle with, right? I'm not that the guy that always crumbles, because God lives within me. So I have to have faith in the power of the Holy Spirit that I can overcome my own inadequacies. And I look at Abraham and I'm pretty sure he's a guy that was very well aware of the inadequacies that he had in his own life. But one thing that I take from him and that I want to apply to myself is when God gave him an instruction, he followed it to a T immediately, no questions asked. He applied and God gave him an instruction, even to the point of killing his own son. He did it, no questions asked. And a lot of times I find myself in my own life, when I know God wants me to do something, I'm always hesitant and I don't follow those instructions immediately. And then consequences happen. And then I ask him, why are there consequences? Why God can't it just be easier for me? And it's never easy. And then it just draws me back to reading about Abraham. Well, no, this guy literally, he never hesitated. He jumped full-heartedly full of faith. And I tried, like I said, I am not, I can't compare myself to somebody like an Abraham. But I have faith in somebody that's greater than Abraham, that lived that perfect life, that already overcame the world for me in my place. His name is Jesus Christ, the descendant of Abraham, Abraham being the father of the Jewish nation. So my greater meaning would be God put something on your heart and you find yourself failing again and again and again. Have faith that Jesus Christ already lived that perfect life for you, and through his sacrifice you are saved, and you are not a failure, and you are also a mighty person in the kingdom of heaven, just like Abraham is.
That's right.
That was deep. That was deep. I had to take a step back and really catch my tears.
Fitting the ending and conclusion of Abraham. Galatians 3 verses 7 through 9 tells us, therefore know that only those who are of the faith are the sons of Abraham. The scriptures, foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith, preached the gospel to Abraham beforehand. In you all nations shall be blessed. So then those who are of the faith are blessed with believing Abraham. We are all children of Abraham, the Bible tells us, if we believe in Jesus Christ. Because that was kind of the big, and we're going to get to it. Maybe it's going to be a while before we get there, but
yeah,
that was kind of the big thing, you know, being Jewish or being of the Hebrew descent, being directly related to Abraham or not. That was a big thing in the early church. And we can all say that
we are children of Abraham.
We are children of Abraham according to faith, just like Abraham was chosen and deemed righteous because of his faith.
On to Isaac.
On to the next patriarch.
Yeah.
Which isn't long. Let's
it's gonna be 8 minutes.
Josh really wants to just do Isaac right now so we get it over with. Just get to
we probably can.
Jacob.
He does a thing.
Because you know they always say the father, just like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They always
it's
Jacob,
only about
it's Jacob. Really gonna be Isaac and Jacob next episode, because it's gonna be a lot more
Isaac Jacob. Into Jacob, basically. Yeah.
I like Isaac, don't get me wrong. He's a wonderful guy.
He's a great guy. He's a good guy.
He's good.
Very intelligent. Very intelligent. Loves veal.
Hey, you take the meat and you season the beef. Oh, wait, is veal beef?
It's deer.
Deer venison.
Venison, right?
Maybe.
I don't know.
It was
Italian.
I'm not either, and that's not an Italian accent. That's a broken Romanian accent, I guess.
I am excited about this next episode because I'm
excited for so much.
We're going to see Abimelech again. We're going to see Abimelech. Abimelech was so afraid. I mean, what happened with that scenario was so wild. Abimelech made Abraham even more rich, and we're about to see what he's going to do with Isaac.
It's going to be great. Let's just say the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Wink, wink.
Yeah, it does not.
Thank you so much for listening. Oh, sorry.
Well, yeah, it's just you got to remember, all these guys end up with beautiful wives. So if you're a single man out there, don't just settle. Find yourself find yourself that beautiful lady of your eyes. Whoever stands out to you, make sure you go to her with 10 camels. And if
10 camels, nose ring and bracelets.
It's kind of curious that they all had beautiful wives, but they were also extremely rich. I wonder how that happens. Funny how life works that way. If you have money, you get the beautiful women.
I think Rebecca was definitely smart, and we see how smart she is later on in the story.
Too smart for her own good.
She was smart. Maybe it wasn't a fact.
With the thing, which we're gonna get into it. We're not.
Listen,
Josh,
maybe it wasn't the fact.
Isaac yet. Just relax.
No, we're not. We're not. But I'm just saying, maybe it wasn't.
You think she
saw
like all the gold in that?
Yes, I think that
I'm gonna give you water. Do your camels want water too, dude? Like, there's a gold ring sticking out of this guy's.
She obviously didn't know that she was gonna end up like being married off because she
literally heard the prayer.
Oh Lord, my servant is my master is so rich and he needs a wife.
Lord, my master Abraham, the wealthiest man in the land.
But I mean,
so wealthy he got renamed in his old age.
She was probably smart. She knew that there might have been a tip at the end of it. If she watered all this, she'd probably like, oh, if I water all this rich man's camels, he might tip me. Obviously, being related to Laban, that runs in the family. That sneaky kind of like, I know what I want, and I'm gonna go get it, no matter how I get it.
Yeah, it's not going to be. I mean, yeah, it's a very good point. This trait, this character trait, definitely is heretical. And
hereditary.
Hereditary? What's hereditary mean?
Heretical is different.
Is a radical hereditary trait, probably.
Heretic?
There is no heretical.
Yes,
that's
believing in the practicing of religions of heresy.
Yeah, heretical is not that.
Believing and practicing religious heresy.
This trait is very heretical. No, it's hereditary, dude.
I'm smart, boy.
All right, guys.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for following us along this awesome journey. And thank you for all you guys that have liked, subscribed. We're coming up on some major landmarks and goals that we've had. And you know, if you like what you hear and you support this, please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, share us with your friends. And what is the
share
greater
us
meaning,
with your friends.
What is the greater meaning to you of Abraham and the stories of the Bible up until this point? Share it with us at greatermeaningpodcast@gmail.com. That's greater.
Be serious. We are serious about the feedback. We really want to hear what you guys have to say. Whether it's big or small, whether it's a nasty comment, I want to hear it. I want to hear that nasty comment about Andrew.
I get them all the time. I just don't share them all, but
because he doesn't give anyone else access to the email.
That's not true.
I don't even have access to anything.
We're gonna give everybody access.
I'm hardly in on your phone calls with each other.
I'm very open access.
I don't know anything about anything with this.
We're just happy that
he sends you the notes.
Yeah,
you can open the notes.
I do get the notes.
That you don't.
I don't open them out of spite.
Out of spite. I'm glad.
I'm too respectful to open your notes.
Join us next.
All right, guys. Either way, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for sticking around.
Look out for that merch that Nathan promised.
No, I got a beat on it. Just, I got to do it. All right, guys. Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Bye.